Today we'll be making the Chinese Type 64. Since this is the time of year where Chinese New Year comes around, or Lunar New Year, I felt that making a Chinese tank would just suit it. And since the Chinese never made that many tanks in World War II or after World War II, this is my first Chinese tank on the channel. This was requested by myself because I am actually Chinese and I do celebrate the holiday. So yeah! Anyways, this is one of my most detailed models yet, so let's get on to the tutorial. First, to start off, here's my Hellcat model. And look at this thing. This thing is now trash. I swear, my old tanks look like crap. But the reason I'm bringing this up is because the Type 64 is actually a Hellcat's turret in a M24 Duster's hull. And this is the reason why I decided to make the Type 64. The Chinese never made that many tanks. They usually just copied Soviet tanks. For example, the Type 62, which is basically a T-55, but it was produced by the Chinese. But since I already made the T-55, sneak peek right here, I'm not going to make the Type 62, but instead the Type 64. And to me, the Type 64 is one of the only popular Chinese tanks that were actually unique to China. So that's why I'm making this tank. And also, here's a reference image. I'm starting to make the turret first, as it is easier to get the scale right. Since the turret is just an M18 Hellcat's turret, it should be pretty easy to make from reference images. The Hellcat's turret is actually sloped a little bit, so I cut the turret into this shape, so it would slope it a slight bit. Then I warped it and glued it on like this, and after that I just cut it out. As I was saying, to get the scale right, I wanted to make something to compare my other tanks to it. So I made the gun. The gun itself was just a broken pen or pencil tube, and the little casing here, or whatever it's called, was made by just using cardboard and hot glue. While letting the gun dry, I cut out this big hole into the bottom of the turret. The hole will later be used to make the turret mechanism, but it's easier to cut it out now. And I also added details to the inside of the turret, as it's really open right now and it's easier. The main detail is the gun breech. After that, I glued on the gun piece, and I also cut out a top piece. The top piece for the tank is pretty self-explanatory. You just glue it on. The back of the turret is also made. The back of the Hellcat is actually sticking out like this. This is to save space. So I just added on the back with more cardboard. When you're done, your turret should look like this, but then I forgot to add on this little ring area for a machine gun, so I added that on too. With the M18 Hellcat's turret fully done, it was time to move on to the hull. And with the hull comes the turret mechanism. For the turret mechanism, I cut out this ring that was bigger than the original circle on the turret. Then I traced the ring on the flat piece of cardboard, which would be the top of the tank, and cut it out like this. Now the ring should fit really nicely in the circle that I cut out. You can trim it a little bit to make it fit better. Next, I glued on the ring on the outside of the circle on the turret, like this. I used a lot of glue to make sure the ring was securely on. The worst thing you want is your turret falling off, and it's really hard to fix. To let the turret dry, I work on the rest of the hull. What surprised me about this tank is how steep the front of the tank is, which just seems really weird to me. When the turret is dry, it should fit nicely in the hole. Then you can glue on some cardboard to keep the turret in place. When that was done, I finished up the rest of the hull, gluing on the bottom and then the sides. When the sides are done, it should look like this. The next step is to make the wheels. For this model, instead of just using regular foam board wheels, I'll be using a bunch of layers of it. This wheel consists of 2 cutout circles of cardboard and 2 cutout foam boards. I'll be improving my wheels in my newer videos because Plastic of Army Studios pointed out that I should improve them. Of course these wheels are more tedious, but they're more thicker and they look better. Once you have enough wheels, you can glue them on. I also made these special 2 wheels for the running gear. The track coverings are also made at this time. The only interesting thing about the track coverings is that there's a whole lot of stuff on them. Now the basic shape of the tank is done, and the turret can move pretty well. The next thing is to add details. Details are made from just cutting up cardboard and gluing it on to make the things sticking out of the tank. This includes hatches, exhaust pipes, and much more. Since the Hellcat's turret has a lot of metal, holes, I used paper clips to make that. The paper clips have to be glued on with super glue or else they won't hold. When you're done, the details should make the tank look a lot nicer like this. The last step is to paint it. The tracks are painted the conventional black. And for the tank, I decided to paint it this camouflage that I found on the internet. When everything was dry, I glued on the tracks. After that, I wanted to paint on a Chinese star, and I wanted to paint it right here in the front of the hole, but I decided to paint it on the right side of the turret instead. And now you're basically done. So I just want to say happy Chinese New Year, and I hope you're doing well. And also, I have a lot more how-to videos coming up. I have like a bunch of pre-made tanks that I just have to edit. And I can't believe it's already been like a whole year. The last Chinese New Year I posted this video, which is pretty ancient. Anyways, thank you all for watching.